So, yeah, I've said this before, but I think that like we have ramped up to what I would call like an ideological opposition to liberal democracy from the wealthy. Wealthy people, or the bourgeoisie, however fancy you want to get with it, generally speaking, have run antagonistic to most developments that we pride ourselves in a liberal democracy. They've been on the opposite end of basically every cause that we value, right? Uh, the ultra wealthy, generally speaking, I mean, you want to look at plantation owners, that's absolutely like a slave master bourgeois proletarian. The underlying dynamic is maintained, the haves versus the have-nots, however you want to label that. You've got labor rights in the United States, you know, the Pinkertons being sent after union leaders, like you just as far back as you want to go. 2008, Great Depression, they're the bad guys, and they always have been. The job creators, you know, they say, but we know they're behind most of the bad stuff, right? And they're not doing it because they're innately evil. They're doing it because they're motivated by a different set of incentives than we are, right? That's it. They see the world differently as a consequence of the fact that they're looking at it from a different perspective. Their perspective, however, is the values they have and the things they incentivize are not to our benefit. The only reason we have a debate in this country over whether or not climate change is real is because fossil fuel companies paid Murdoch and other right-wing media magnates to convince people to not believe in climate change. It's not like an organic grassroots belief. Overwhelmingly, this stuff flows down from the top. In disinformation, not wealth, flows from the top. And I think that like most of what we're seeing right now can be characterized by a principled opposition to liberal democracy that has been historically common among the oligarchs, but nowadays is probably best described by like Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel. You've got these Silicon Valley tech moguls who essentially believe a more fleshed out version of the 15-year-old, well, everything in society would work fine if I controlled everything, basically. You know? Like, if I was in charge, things would be fine. Democracy is bad because people are stupid. It's this like it's this megalomaniacal tech bro fascism, and it's really, really, really common these days. Like not just among the oligarchs, it's also common among like regular people. People are fed up and tired with democracy because they have a low opinion of other voters. You scroll the feed, you consume social media, you watch 90 Day Fiancé or The Bachelorette or whatever. You're nonstop inundated with reminders that the average person is not very smart and not very empathetic. So you think, you know, wisely, oh, wouldn't things be so much easier if I could press all the buttons, I could pull the levers of power, I didn't have to be beholden to the stupid interests of stupid people. But all of this is manufactured, right? This disinformation campaign, it comes from the top. People aren't organically waking up and saying like, well, I think climate change isn't real. No one just arrives at that conclusion on their own. There are power systems that inform them, whether it be from the church, whether it be from fucking ExxonMobil spreading decades of misinformation, paying Fox, paying other media companies, paying politicians, lobbying to get bills blocked or passed through. You just have to understand none of this happens naturally. What we're seeing here is the logical culmination of that belief. If liberal democracy is the problem, end liberal democracy. And you can't really do that in a wealthy, highly educated country. That's why they want to get rid of the Department of Education, which they basically already have. They've handicapped it to a point of like essentially non-functionality. And they're certainly getting rid of democracy like day in, you know, every minute of every day. They're working at eroding it as effectively as they can. You guys understand what I'm talking about? That's why they want to make America Russia, or like the UAE, or Saudi Arabia, or maybe like Hungary, you know? They want to turn America into a playground for people like them, where they don't have to worry about the law or consequences or public opinion. The problem is this doesn't really work that well in a developed country, right? The UAE is the way it is because it is a society of slaves with like 5 people wealthy enough to actually enjoy the services built out to them. You know, Dubai is a playground for the wealthy. Not a real country or real city, I guess, in that case. They're slave states. They're not real, you know? They're like the Cayman Islands. Like they exist in like a particular circumstance that's not replicable in a real country like the United States with like an actual citizenry and civil society and so on and so forth, you know? So what do? You erode civil society. How do you erode civil society? Well, one of the ways you do that is you bring the economy down a couple of notches on the tech tree. It's really difficult to erode civil society in a highly educated, upwardly mobile service economy. It's really tough to. You know what's a really easy kind of economy to rule dictatorially? Raw resource extraction. Why some of the poorest countries in the world rely on stuff like cobalt mines, gold, diamonds, oil, coal, because it's easy. You get your slaves, they go down to the pit, they bring up the expensive stuff, you sell it to a wealthier country that can actually develop it into something. No one has to be educated. You don't need a civil society. That's the reason why countries that rely on raw resource extraction have a tendency to be pretty backwards socially. And, you know, the corollary to that is that very upwardly mobile, tech-focused, service industry-focused societies tend to be a lot, you know, wealthier and more developed. Look at Western Europe, right? You can look at France, Spain, Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands. These countries aren't as primed for dictatorial control. Hungary was a great example of this because Hungary is not fundamentally a despotic shithole, mine up the coal and then sell it to the foreign market kind of economy. And as a consequence of that, Viktor Orban has had a really difficult time cracking down on the country's democratic norms and civil society. Viktor Orban, a fascist, has been having a really difficult time actually achieving the power he wants, and lately he's been plummeting in the polls. It's just difficult to unwind all of that. I think that we're fated to go down the same path. You know, I don't think that Trump and Elon will succeed in like meaningfully ending the systems that allow our country to be developed as it is. I do think they're going to do a ton of damage before they eventually get ousted, though. And because we're the global economic leader, it is also possible that the damage done here, it'll certainly be felt globally. It might also be semi-permanent. You know? Like, you can rebound a smaller country relatively quickly because a country like Hungary is like 1 or 2 years of dedicated trading and corruption rooting out away from being like a peer to its neighbors or superior to its neighbors in terms of its development. America's pretty damn big. And it takes a while to build something up that's been broken that thoroughly, especially when it's this complicated. You get me? I'm rambling. I'm in the weave. You understand me. Are you serious about rice and beans? About eating rice and beans? Yes. Why would I not be?